How about now? Does that work? Okay, great. Thank you. I think this is my favorite microphone that we've used yet. Hopefully we continue it for future hearings. Okay. All right, good afternoon, everyone. I see that we have a lot of people present for this hearing. So I typically would confirm with the staff that we have everyone we're expecting. I think I'm going to forego that this month. I assume that everyone is here. My name is Taylor Hartstein. I'm an attorney in private practice in Albuquerque at a firm in Albuquerque, and I have been appointed by the Board of County Commissioners as the hearing officer for the Sustainable Land Development Code hearings. And so at this time, I would like to go on the record and call the meeting to order for case number 255180. And first, I'll just confirm with the staff that there are no changes to the agenda for today's meeting.
Hearing Officer Hartstein, there are no changes to the agenda.
All right, we have one matter on the agenda, which relates to applications for 2 conditional use permits that are related and being treated together under the same case number. As I mentioned, it's the 255180 Globe Mallow Energy LLC Project 1 and Project 2, and the applicant is Linea Energy LLC. And first, I'd like to call the staff and ask the staff to give its presentation. I'll note that before we get started, we are planning, or I'm going to impose a limit of 3 minutes on each individual offering public commentary. I know that we have a number of individuals who have submitted written commentary. I've reviewed what was submitted in advance of the public posting. I've also cursorily reviewed the supplemental comments that we've received as of today. I will review them in more detail when I do my recommendation, but we're imposing a limit of 3 minutes per person for public commentary. Mr. Cisneros, please go ahead with the staff presentation.
I do. Dominic Cisneros, Santa Fe County Building and Development Supervisor, 240 Grant Avenue, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87507. Good afternoon, Hearing Officer Hartstein. Just for clarification, there are 2 separate case numbers that are signed for the 2 separate projects. Project 1 is 255180, and project number 2 is 255190.
I see that. Thank you.
Linea Energy LLC requests approval of 2 conditional use permit applications. Project 1, case number 255180, and Project 2, case number 255190, have been consolidated for hearing purposes only and are collectively referred to herein as the project for ease of reference. The applicant seeks approval to allow a commercial solar energy production facility with an associated battery energy storage system and a generation tie-in, approximately 900 to 1,000 feet in length. Project 1 consists of approximately 1,936 acres across 20 parcels and is zoned rural and agricultural ranch. Project 2 consists of approximately 960 acres across 2 parcels and is zoned agricultural ranch. The project site address is 4234 NM41, Stanley, New Mexico, Commission District 3. Project 1 parcels are privately owned by Thomas Burson. The applicant holds qualifying site control over these parcels pursuant to a recorded purchase option. Project 2 parcels are privately owned by Lewis and Jill Fisher. The applicant holds qualifying site control over these parcels through a recorded lease option agreement. The subject parcels are currently vacant and used for cattle grazing. The 2 applications, case number 255180 and case number 255190, are separate requests but are collectively referred to herein as the project for ease of reference. The project consists primarily of ground-mounted solar photovoltaic modules on motorized tracking system, together with and associated with infrastructure including electrical inverters, transformers, battery energy storage system, components, substations, access roads, perimeter fencing, generation tie-in, and an operation and maintenance building. Project 1 is proposed to have a solar generating capacity of 199 megawatts, and a battery energy storage system allocation of 199 megawatts. One 2.3-acre collector substation and the shared operations and maintenance building will be located within Project 1. Project 2 is proposed to have solar generating capacity of 150 megawatts and a BESS allocation of 150 megawatts. Project 2 will include its own separate 2.3-acre collector substation. However, both 2.3-acre collector substations are located on Project 1. The two projects will share certain infrastructure, including a single approximately 11.8-acre BESS facility sized to accommodate the combined generating capacity of Project 1 and 2, the shared switch yard area, the shared O&M building, portions of the Gentai line, and associated support infrastructure. The project is located on the east side of State Highway 41, approximately 2.4 miles northeast of Stanley. The total gross acreage encompassed by both application is approximately 2,896 acres. However, the total fence development footprint inside the fence will be approximately 2,002 acres. Project 1, the applicant requests approval of a conditional use permit to allow a 199 megawatt solar energy facility across 20 parcels, totaling approximately 1,936 acres. The facility will include solar panels, arrays, and approximately 11.8 acres of shared BESS. Additional support facility to include approximately 19.7-acre shared switch yard, the 2.3 collective substation, 1,440 square feet O&M building, and the associated electrical equipment and infrastructure. On-site improvements include approximately 900 to 1,000 linear feet of shared Gentai line, supported by approximately 90-foot tall steel monopoles and approximately 19.8 miles of access roads. Project 2. The applicant also requests approval of a conditional use permit to allow a 150 megawatt solar energy facility across 2 parcels, totaling approximately 960 acres. The facility will consist of solar panel arrays and will include a 2.3-acre collector substation, which is located on the parcels within Project 1, shared access to the approximately 11.8-acre BESS, shared switch yard area, shared Gentai infrastructure, associated electrical equipment, and support facilities. On-site improvements include approximately a 900 to 1,000 linear foot of shared Gentai line, supported by the approximately 90-foot tall steel monopoles, and approximately 14.2 miles of access roads. If the requested CUPs are approved, the applicant is also requesting a 12-month extension to the standard 24-month expiration period set forth in Section 4.9.6.10 of the Sustainable Land Development Code. Section 4.9.6.10 authorizes the board to grant a single 12-month extension with no further extensions permitted. Project 1 parcels are zoned rural and agricultural. Project 2 parcels are zoned agricultural ranch. Appendix B, the use matrix of the SLDC, identifies commercial solar energy production facility as a conditional use within both the rural and the ag ranch zoning districts. The applicant has addressed all applicable SLDC design standards and CUP criteria, and staff has responded. On August 1st, 2024, as required by the SLDC, Table 4-1 and Section 4.4.3, the applicant presented the proposed CUP to the Technical Advisory Committee at the regular scheduled bi-monthly meeting included on Exhibit H. On January 9th, 2025, as requested by Table 4-1 and Section 4.4.4 of the SLDC, the applicant conducted a pre-application neighborhood meeting on the CUP. The applicant notified surrounding property owners as well as certified organizations and registered organizations of the meeting. 18 individuals attended the meeting. The meeting began with a 1-hour presentation covering the project's location, equipment specifications, resource studies, project schedule, and anticipated economic and environmental benefits. Following the presentation, attendees were invited to ask questions and provide comments. The meeting lasted approximately 2.5 hours. The application was submitted on September 2nd, 2025. Notice requirements for both hearing officer and planning commission meetings were met as per SLDC Section 4.6.3. In advance of the hearing on the application, the applicant provided an affidavit confirming that the public notice posting regarding the application was made for a minimum of 15 days on the property, beginning on February 24th, 2026. Additionally, notice of the hearing was published in the Santa Fe New Mexican on February 25th, 2026, as evident by a copy of the notice contained in the record. The notice of the hearing was sent to owners of the land within 1,000 feet of the project perimeter, which exceeds the SLDC requirement that owners of land within 500 feet of the subject property be notified, as well as any pertinent COs and ROs, and a list of persons sent to mailing is contained in the record. Building and Development Services staff have reviewed the project for compliance with pertinent SLDC requirements and have found that the facts presented support the request for a conditional use permit. For Project 1, to allow a 199 megawatt solar energy facility across 20 parcels, totaling approximately 1,936 acres within the rural and agricultural ranching zoning districts. And Project 2, to allow a 150 megawatt solar energy facility across 2 parcels, totaling approximately 960 acres within the agricultural ranching zoning district. The use is compatible with current development within the affected zoning district. The use will not impact adjacent land uses, and the applicant satisfies the submittal requirements set forth in the SLDC, inclusive of the conditional use criteria set forth in Chapter 4, Section 4.9.6.5. Review comments from Santa Fe County Fire Department, NV5, Glorieta Geoscience, and the New Mexico Historic Preservation Division and county staff were considered as part of the staff's analysis. Based on the application materials and these reviews, staff finds the 2 proposed commercial solar energy production facilities are consistent with the applicable SLDC design standards, subject to compliance with recommended conditions of approval and subsequent permitting requirements. Staff reviewed the CUP application and has determined all criteria for the CUP have been met to allow Project 1, a 199 megawatt solar energy facility across 20 parcels, and Project 2, a 150 megawatt solar energy facility across 2 parcels, including the requested 12-month extension within the rural and agricultural ranching zoning districts. If the hearing officer finds that the applicant has met the CUP criteria and grants approval, staff recommends the conditions listed below be imposed. This report and exhibits are listed or hereby submitted as part of the record. Hearing Officer Hartstein, I submitted to you supplemental letters of support and opposition, and so I'd like for those to be included in the record as well. Staff requests the hearing officer memorialize findings of fact and conclusion of law in a written recommended order. The Santa Fe County Planning Commission may be holding a public hearing on this matter on April 16th, 2026. May we enter these conditions into the record?
Yes, conditions 1 through 16, as specified in the staff report, are admitted into the record, and then also the supplemental letters of approval and comments of approval will be made a part of Exhibit AA, and the supplemental letters of opposition and statements of opposition will be made a supplemental part of Exhibit BB.
Thank you. At this time, I stand for any questions.
Okay. For the review agencies, I note that there are a couple of agencies that indicate that no review was sent. Are there any updates from the review agencies?
There are no other updates for any other review agencies.
Okay, and I know that NMDOT, it says review not received, but there is an access permit from DOT, and that's Exhibit L, right?
Yes, that is correct. The applicant did apply for an access permit with NMDOT, and that was issued, but they did not respond to our review when we submitted a packet.
Okay, understood. You mentioned the 12-month extension, and I believe that you mentioned that the conditions for that 12-month extension are satisfied. That extension applies only to the substantial, to the commencement of substantial construction, right? That's not for the completion of the project, setting it out to 36 months. That's just for the commencement of substantial construction.
Hearing Officer Hartstein, that is correct. So there is a 24-month expiration date from the date the final order on a decision from Planning Commission is set. And so from that date, there's a 24-month period where substantial construction must begin. And so yes, the 12-month extension is added to that 24 months.
Understood. I understand that there's a condition that is specified by staff under the conditions of approval. That's condition 1 regarding compliance with the reviewing agency's requirements. Does that include the suggestions or the recommendations made by NV5 and also by the Glorietta Geoscience, Inc.?
Hearing Officer Hartstein, yes, that is correct. Those comments and conditions are included.
Okay, and I know that some of the Glorietta Geosciences, Inc., or excuse me, some of the NV5 recommendations were incorporated into the fire marshal's report as well. And so my understanding is that also includes the fire marshal's comments and requirements, as well as those of the State Historical Preservation Office. Is that right?
Hearing Officer Hartstein, that is correct.
Okay. There's a condition specified that there will be no drilling of additional wells on the properties. I understand that in addressing section 7.13 of the Sustainable Land Development Code, the applicant indicated that they may convert an existing domestic well into a commercial well. Is that conversion acceptable under the conditions that staff is recommending?
Hearing Officer Hartstein, yes. So the existing well and the proposal of that to be converted to a commercial well is going to be the use for the O&M building. There will be no other use of that well other than that. And
Okay.
so that conversion of the well would be accepted.
Okay. I think some of the conditions that are specified in the various contractor reports and the fire marshal report indicate that those conditions be satisfied as part of or in advance of applying for a building permit. In the staff's perspective, is that sufficient to ensure that those conditions will be complied with?
Hearing Officer Hartstein, yes, some of the conditions are required to be done prior to the recordation of the CUP site development plan. And then other conditions are to be imposed, prior to the issuance of a development permit. And then some of the conditions are imposed to be prior to the commissioning of the facility.
Okay. Okay, understood. Okay, that's all the questions I have for staff. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask for the applicant presentation, and I'd like to invite the representative of the applicant to be sworn in prior to offering a statement.
Andrew Davidson, 311 California Street, Suite 450, San Francisco, 94122. Or no, sorry, 94104.
I'm Brad Wilson, also with Linnea Energy at the same address.
And Jeffrey Weber, Linnea Energy, the same address.
So you can please go ahead with an affirmative statement, and then I may have some questions for you.
Pardon?
So you can go ahead with any presentation or statement you have, and then I may have some follow-up questions as well.
Okay, we'll start with the presentation.
Okay, great.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Davidson. I'm a senior associate at Linear Energy, and I'll be presenting on behalf of the applicant, Globe Mountain Energy, or Linear Energy LLC. Globe Mountain Energy LLC. Thank you, Hearing Officer Hartstein, for the opportunity to present our project today. Additionally, I'd like to thank the Santa Fe County staff for guiding us through this process, as well as the Santa Fe County Fire Department, as well as the community for attending this meeting. We are here seeking a conditional use permit approval for the Globe Mountain Energy Project. This is a solar and battery storage facility proposed in southeastern Santa Fe County. In a few slides, I'll provide some additional information on myself, as well as letting our additional team members introduce themselves. So just to give an overview of the agenda, our presentation today will cover 6 topics. First, we'll outline the basis for today's hearing and the permitting process we have followed. Second, I will outline the overview of Linear Energy and its relationship to Globe Mountain Energy. Fourth, I'll give a walkthrough of our project details, including location, timeline, zoning, and community engagement. And then fifth, we'll provide an overview of our battery energy storage component. And finally, we'll address each of the 7 conditional use approval criteria under SLDC section 4.9.6.5. We do, for question, should we swear, we do have some subject matter experts here with us. Should they be sworn in at this time?
If they're going to offer statements, they should be sworn in. We can do that at the time they're offering statements, or we can just do it all up front. It's up to you.
For introductions. Okay. All right, so from our team, we have myself, I'm Andrew Davidson. I'm a senior associate with Linear Energy. I've been working in renewable energy for 5 years and 2.5 with Linear. I've been the project manager of this project since we acquired the project in May of 2024. Here with us, we have Brad Wilson. He's our senior director of development for the Western team. We have Jeff Weber, who's the director of engineering. We should have James Strilo on the line. He is a senior project execution manager. We have Jennifer Loeffler from ERP. She was in charge of our environmental impact report. From Jensen Hughes, we have David Tomasek. And then from Westwood, we have a few members on the line who could be asked for specific deliverable questions. And then from Holland and Hart, Adrian Bell. So for the basis of today's hearing, we are here today seeking a conditional use permit review and approval for the Globe Mountain Energy Project under Santa Fe County's Sustainable Land Development Code, Chapter 4, commercial solar energy production facilities and gas or electric power generation facilities in rural or agricultural ranching zone parcels require conditional use review and approval. The project has been advancing through county CUP process for nearly 2 years. We held our technical advisory committee meeting on August 1st. We originally submitted our application on April 25th of 2025, but submitted a revised application on August 25th, with our application being deemed complete on September 5th, 2025. Today's hearing with the hearing officer is the next step in that process. We believe the project meets all criteria for conditional use permit approval. It is compatible with the rural and agricultural ranching zoning requirements, and our application materials demonstrate compliance with the approval criteria defined in SLDC 4.9.6.5 and the spirit of the SMGMT. Additionally, this project supports both county and state policy initiatives for sustainable growth, renewable energy, decarbonization, and local economic development. And on the right side is a view of the transmission lines that bisect our property. So to start, I want to start with some Santa Fe County policy initiatives. So our project directly aligns with the county's Sustainable Growth Management Plan. The SGMT identifies several goals and strategies that this project supports. Goal 23 calls for supporting energy efficiency and renewable energy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and dependence on non-renewable energy use. Policy 9.3 encourages renewable energy infrastructure to enhance local energy independence. Goal 24 supports the development of sustainable renewable energy production and distribution infrastructure. And strategy 10.1.4 calls for developing incentives to encourage renewable energy and environmentally clean industries in the county. In addition, we wanted to highlight that the county in their sustainable growth management plan has highlighted this area as one of the highest solar resource potential regions in the country or in the county. In addition, New Mexico has a lot of initiatives in load growth. For Senate Bill 43, they established New Mexico's renewable portfolio standard, 20% carbon-free electricity by 2020. This was further expanded with the New Mexico Energy Transition Act of 2019, which was Senate Bill 489. That expanded the goals and requirements of the REA and 100% carbon-free electricity by 2045. On the right, we walk through the stages of that Energy Transition Act. In addition, New Mexico Senate Bill 170 introduced energy storage included in the definition of economic development project for utilities, and the New Mexico PRC IRP rules added new electricity resource via a structured 3-year planning process with competitive solicitations and PRC approval. In addition, we want to just highlight, the demand growth. Load growth has been a big topic for why renewable projects are being brought to New Mexico as well as the rest of the country. On the right, there's a graphic from PNM's IRP that shows the 2023 IRP in orange with the 2026 IRP load forecast in blue. So to start, I want to give an overview of Linnea Energy. Our company is an independent power producer. We were founded in 2022, and the company develops, owns, and operates wind, solar, and storage assets across the United States. We are headquartered in San Francisco with additional offices in Chicago and Austin. I also have a collection of remote employees, and we employ 41 employees full-time across our company. Our pipeline consists of 23 projects across 11 states. We currently have 2 projects under construction and 1 operational. Our primary investor is InCap Investments, which is based in Houston, Texas. We want to emphasize that Linnea Energy is a U.S. company controlled by U.S. investors. So just to give further overview, because our company is so new, we haven't constructed a lot of projects. But on the left, we have one of our projects that has recently been constructed, which is a solar project in Wilcox County, Georgia. And these are photos from the site. In addition, our executive team has built a collection of projects, and some of those projects are highlighted on the right-hand side. And so just to give, an overview, we are a U.S. company controlled by U.S. investors, and apologies for this slide. I think it's a bit messy, but I think just that a lot of the components from this project is made up of, sources from companies worldwide as well as companies domestically, and just gives an overview of some of the, individual items that would be employed on our project, which we'll go into at a later time. And here is our team. We recently volunteered with Habitat for Humanity and built some children's playhouses. I built the one on the second to the right, or second to the left, but just want to give an overview of our team and who we are. So this was something that was addressed in the previous hearing for an applicant similar to us, and so just want to establish, who are, sorry, skip through that. So just want to give, the relationship from GlobeMellow to Linnea Energy. So this applicant for the conditional use permit is, Linnea Energy LLC, or GlobeMellow Energy LLC. And so that's a project company owned by Linnea Energy. GlobeMellow Energy LLC holds all of the project assets. And the corporate structure is pretty straightforward. InCap Energy as a transition fund, which serves as the parent company to Linnea Energy LLC. And then Linnea Energy LLC is an operating entity and independent power producer, with GlobeMellow Energy LLC being a project level entity. And then we also just want to highlight 2 subsidiaries of GlobeMellow Energy LLC. We acquired these projects, and so they had different LLCs associated with them, mainly for the land options that were associated with the project, as well as the interconnection positions, but those rights have been since transferred to Globe Mountain Energy LLC. So to start our application overview, Dominic gave a great overview, but just wanted to follow up here. Globe Mountain Phase 1 is a 199 megawatt solar generation paired with 199 megawatts of battery storage. It's on a 1,932 acre footprint, and Phase 2 consists of 150 megawatts of solar paired with 150 megawatts of battery storage on 960 acres. In total, the developed area is estimated to be 1,991 acres out of the 2,892 acre footprint. Each phase is a distinct landowner and interconnection position. Both phases are located in southeastern Santa Fe County and will interconnect at the Diamond Tail to Klein's Corner 345 kV transmission circuit. Construction is targeted to begin in November of 2027 with target commercial operation by May of 2029. And just, a brief overview of how, a project like this functions. Good. All right. I'll keep going.
Keep going.
The project functions in 3 stages. Solar panels generate clean electricity during daylight hours. Batteries store excess solar power for later use, and the stored indirect energy is delivered to the grid, supplying powers to homes and businesses through PNM's transmission system. The batteries would also have the ability to charge and discharge from the grid for reliability. For location, so want to give 2 maps here. The project's located in south central, southeastern Santa Fe County, approximately 2.4 miles northeast of Stanley, New Mexico. It's east of Highway 41, and that's where the access point would be for the project. This land is, on the next slide, we'll go over it. This land is open rangeland, flat terrain with sparse vegetation. We view this as really well suited for solar development. And the project is currently used for cattle ranching and has been historically used for that purpose. The site benefits from direct proximity to PNM's high voltage transmission infrastructure, which runs through the property. Here's some more views of our project site. This was taken, probably a few months ago on a site visit. And also wanted to give Globe Mountain Energy the zoning, a separate slide. So the project's parcels are zoned agricultural/ranching and rural under the county use matrix and the SLDC, commercial solar energy production facilities, and gas or electric power generation facilities are listed as conditional uses in both of these zoning districts. It's hard to see here, but in the rural section, there is a C for conditional that runs through there. And here I want to give just a high level of our project site plan. So this is a conceptual site plan. It's based off our 30% design, and we have a more detailed 30% design within our application package. Phase 1 is outlined in blue, while Phase 2 is outlined in red. The PV arrays sit on the eastern half of the project for the facility for the most part, with the BES yard and the O&M facilities, laydown yard, and substations on the western half of the project. This area for where we sited the transmission infrastructures and the batteries came following, it previously was in the center of the site, but following conversations with County Fire as well as our development and design teams, it made more sense for these locations to be on the western half of the property right next to the project entrance. The 345 kilovolt transmission line runs diagonally through the site. That's outlined in purple. And then the black dotted, it's hard to kind of see on this zoomed out view, but the black dotted line represents the fencing for the project site. For the project site, given that the landowners in the area actively raise cattle, we would have 6-foot deer buster fencing around the solar facility with 7-foot barbed wire fencing surrounding the BES and substation facilities. I think one of the things here is we just want to highlight is that, from a zoomed out view, this, solar facility can really be broken down into a few parts. And that consists of solar panels, racking, access roads, inverter stations, perimeter fencing, utility substation. There's also MV lines that are going to connect the solar to the substation. And then we also would have an operation and maintenance building, a laydown yard for construction preparation, as well as the battery energy storage system. So now I'm going to pass it over to Brad Wilson.
Good afternoon. Brad Wilson with Linnea. Slide back. Just a few quick comments on who this project's energy and capacity resources could serve. The project has interconnection agreement with PNM on their 345 kV transmission line, more colloquially referred to as the BB2 line. This is a line that was built fairly recently across this site, and it runs parallel to an older 345 kV transmission line that runs across the site. So yeah, at a high level, the energy generated by this project and the capacity resources provided by the battery system can serve any counterparty that takes delivery of resources over PNM's transmission system. This line, more generally, brings in low-cost energy generation resources from eastern and central New Mexico into PNM, Santa Fe, and Albuquerque large load centers. The fact that this infrastructure is owned by PNM, I think clearly indicates that PNM is one type of counterparty that could take delivery of this project's resources, but there are a number of other counterparties that also own network transmission rights on PNM's system, including municipals, co-ops in New Mexico, large commercial customers, and larger power trading firms. So PNM is not the only counterparty applicable here. A number of other counterparties are available. But ultimately, this power and these resources will flow along PNM's transmission system here into other parts of New Mexico, including Santa Fe.
Now just to walk through the proposed project timeline. So as I mentioned, we acquired this project back in May of 2024. So prior to that, the main work that had been done on the project was the land agreements, the interconnection application submitted to PNM, and the various interconnection studies. There was also wetland surveys, cultural or biological resource surveys, and hydrology analysis. The cultural resource survey should have been moved to, after we acquired the project. And so in 2024, when we took over, I had the TAC meeting on August 1st of 2024 and really started the major design and environmental work following that meeting, which really informed on our application that we submitted to the county in 2025. From here, with the third-party reviewers reviewed our application, and so now we're going through this process. Following this, we are anticipating to begin construction in 2027, and we'll work with a subcontractor that we select for that, as well as ordering the necessary equipment for this project. We also work with the county and to meet the requirements set out by the conditional use permit conditions, as well as the building permit requirements, and then would begin with our mobilization. Construction would continue through 2028, and then in 2029, the facility would be placed in service. And then, as of now, is estimated and modeled to be operating for up to 40 years of a useful life. But Jeff Weber, our engineer, can talk more about that at a later time. And then, following, we have submitted a decommissioning plan, and so following whenever the facility ends up being decommissioning, it would comply with that plan. And so just some walking through some of our construction schedules. As we said, Q4 is when we expect for mobilization to begin. Equipment deliveries and array construction would begin in Q1 of 2028. Q1 of 2029 would be the completion of the substation and BES yard. And then following that would be testing and commissioning, and then the requirements for cleanup. And so prior to any of that construction work being completed, we will work with the county as well as the county fire department to meet all the requirements that have been set out. Construction activity will be limited to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday. Night work will be pretty limited aside from concrete pours. For project operations, so we've estimated 40 years for the useful life, but can speak more to that. This is solar electricity generation, energy storage. We'd enter into an agreement for this power to be sold. We view this as low impact operation, low traffic, zero emissions, no solid waste, low impact on public services, code compliant noise profile, soil stabilization, active vegetation management, and low groundwater usage. This will also result in permanent local O&M jobs and contribute to local property tax revenue. For decommissioning, under county requirements, we will be required to post a decommissioning bond, and we'll continue to update our decommissioning plan as we move forward through the conditional use permit process and up to the building permit. Decommissioning generally involves, the removal of the equipment that's on the site, the recycling of that equipment, and disposal of some of the above ground equipment. And then removal to partial depth of all subsurface materials such as support posts, electrical wiring, and conduit. And then some infrastructure that could serve future uses could be retained, such as fencing, roads, or the O&M building. And then for the site restoration, it would include regrading and revegetation of areas of soil disturbance, decommissioning and restoration activities estimated 12 to 18 months following the useful life. And just want to give an overview here of our comprehensive site diligence, design, and analysis. So all of these materials have been posted on the Santa Fe County website, and we'll continue to update these materials as we move through the process. For community engagement, Dominic spoke a bit about this, but we had our pre-application neighborhood meeting at the Stanley Cyclone Center on January 9th of 2025, and invited neighbors near the property. This group included 21 households and 5 organizations. Approximately 18 individuals attended the meeting. In addition, we have held 3 additional community office hours following submission of our application. And these office hours were held in August 2025, September 2025, and December 2025, and really encourage the community members that we reach out for the meetings to come and ask questions and provide comments on our design. Additionally, we've engaged with community interest groups. We've proactively engaged with groups that have reached out to us and really are trying to make it so that we can have an open dialogue with people that are interested in the project, as well as give them the information surrounding our application. Emphasizing transparency, open communication, and just making sure that they have my contact information. For local outreach, we've met with members of Future Farmers of America and are actively exploring opportunities as the project develops. We definitely want to build more relationships in the Stanley community and are continuing to seek additional opportunities to engage with that community. Here's a photo of Jeff Weber presenting at our community meeting. So now I'm going to hand it over to Jeff. He will give really an overview of our battery storage slides, and then we'll wrap it up with the conditional use permit approval criteria.
Hi, Jeff Weber, Director of Engineering here at Linea. Thanks for your time. I'm going to talk a little bit about battery storage technology, a little bit more about the project, what that's going to look like. The facility we're presenting is a combination of solar and battery storage, but given the relatively newer entrance of standalone storage facilities, we felt it was worthwhile to do a walkthrough and talk about some of the key details that are going to be part of the Globe Mallow Energy project here. So this is an indicative layout of what's going to look like. It's fairly simple. It's a rectangular structure, battery arrays in the interior, various access roads in the interior and around the perimeter. A little parlance here for how we talk about the facility specifications. Phase 1 is 199 megawatts. Phase 2 is 150. This is the power output at the point of interconnection. But they'll have a certain amount of energy storage in megawatt hours. And we like to use the term duration, so 199 megawatts, 4-hour duration, pretty simple. So you may see those two specifications from time to time, but we're just referring to the overall specs of the facility. The battery technology that we're using is lithium ion. There's a few different chemistries that are in the market. The most common and popular type of chemistry for standalone storage, as well as most electric vehicles now, is lithium iron phosphate, or LFP for short. The technology that we're likely to use is going to take on the form of what we call prismatic cells. These are basically big rectangular cells. They could be cylindrical. It depends on who the supplier is. Tesla and Panasonic, kind of same thing. They create a cylindrical cell. Right now, the supplier for our storage facility is TBD. There's a kind of a strategic, schedule-based, advanced time frame in which we'd actually knuckle down with suppliers, make a decision, draft a supply agreement. So what I'm presenting here is just indicative of what we're most likely to use, but it's not final for this project. And a little, just a few details here to kind of conceptualize what one storage container can do. So about the size of a shipping container, give or take. Inside is a number of racks, and or modules as they'll call them, and then racked inside of those modules are the cells themselves. That's the actual batteries. For the proposed 6.25 megawatt hour container here, just to give you a sense of that, that could power a New Mexican home for 9-10 months, just about. And so it can contain quite a lot of energy. For this project as well, we're looking about somewhere between 220 to 225 overall energy storage containers to meet those 4-hour specs. So the containers, they're configured into what we call AC blocks. The AC blocks, so configuration of containers, our power conversion system, or PCS for short. This is where the inverter and the other battery management equipment is contained. We have an energy management system that basically is the brain that tells the battery and the PCS how to operate. And then medium voltage transformers, these regulate voltage between the facility and the interconnection facilities. Each AC block is then configured next to each other, and that makes up the battery array. A little more about LFP. LFP is a really advantageous chemistry for lithium-ion batteries. There's a graph at the bottom. It's probably a little hard to see what's going on there, but this will be public record, and it's actually quite interesting. What it arranges here is really 6 of kind of the most important characteristics for the different energy storage types. There's actually a lot more lithium-ion chemistry types that this particular information was pulled from. These are the 2 most relevant ones. Nickel, magnesium, cobalt, or NMC for short, was the most popular one. It's used in most laptops, cell phones, anywhere where you have really, you want to put a premium on your energy density to weight ratio, something you're carrying in your pocket. For these facilities, we're not going to be moving them around. They're going to stay put. So we don't really care about the energy density so much. What we're looking for is lifespan, safety, reliability, and cost. And LFP really scores very high on all those metrics. So the primary takeaway here is that lithium iron phosphate, LFP, it's about the safest and longest lived of the lithium ion technologies available today. Due to that, its presence in utility scale energy storage is 80%, growing every year. Nobody's really installing NMC anymore. So this facility is would be of the lithium iron phosphate technology. A few other details here about LFP. One of the big ones we talked about was safety. So big concern with lithium ion storage, or any battery storage, is what we call thermal runaway. It's basically a breakdown of the chemistry, and what that does, it can release something, either hydrogen or oxygen, that can combust. It's a feedback loop. What the battery management system, one of the key components of the storage facility, is doing, it's constantly maintaining insights into the health of all of the cells within every rack, within every container. LFP gives us a lot of advantages in that thermal runaway, first, is very hard to trigger. You need a very high temperature. Long before we get close to the so-called trigger threshold for that temperature, we know something's not right. and can dispatch service to go take care of it. More than likely, any cells within the BESS facility that are showing performance outside of anticipated normal bounds would immediately get flagged as an alert in the system. You can go out there, you can swap out the cell and have your facility up and running and remove any chance that you're going to have a problematic cell in the mix. I'll spare some of the other details on here, but one of the most important ones here is the graph on the top right. This is sourced from the ESRI, or the Energy Storage Reliability Index. It's a Wikipedia page, and it keeps live updates of any incident in all of the energy storage facilities. This chart here at the top right was pulled from it, and the key thing to look at there is the orange line showing the number of incidences per gigawatt of installed capacity over time. And you can really see, starting in 2020, that number dropped quite considerably, and it is converging towards zero. This is entirely because of the adoption of LFP as the technology. We're really just not seeing any of the incidences that were experienced in the first few years where these facilities were starting to be configured. Multi-layered fire mitigation detection systems. The BMS, as I've mentioned a few times before, that's the battery management system. This is the first line of defense. This tells us everything going on in the battery storage facility. So early detection allows us to intervene and remove the issue before it turns into something bigger. In the case of thermal runaway, though, it is still possible. As a result, the industry has adopted international and US standards. They're almost identical. And what those are designed to do is, one, make sure that if you were to have a battery fire, the key thing you're looking for, amongst all the things these standards are testing for, but the number one key thing, is to keep the fire contained within the battery container itself. So what this means is that these tests that they run, the suppliers, the certified equipment that they're selling into the market and deploying into the field has undergone an actual fire test where they've shown that a storage facility with a container that catches on fire located right next to its the other storage containers, that fire will not propagate from container to container. So this is what the 9540A standard is meant to show. Layers 4 and 5 here is, it removes power to the facility, so you're not worried about interaction between continued electrification and anything going on in the emergency situation. And last but very not least is the first responder interface. So there's a safety plan, so any emergency response knows what to do with the facility. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Andrew here to talk about some of the details of the site and how they pertain to safety and access.
So just for site location, I think we just want to show a figure that illustrates the residences in proximity to our facility. This was something that was highlighted in the EIR and that we've already implemented into our revisions within the environmental impact report from the third-party consultants. For security fence, NFPA 70 requires utility scale BES to have a perimeter fence of at least 7 feet, and so I mentioned that earlier. And so our layout's been based on our the requirements that have been outlined by the supplier, but the project will also is incorporating the 30-foot defensible space, and we'll work with the county fire department to design that defensible space. First, our original application had 30,000 gallons of water supply on site, and so based on the county fire recommendations, we're already incorporating into our site plan the 60,000 gallons of water, and we'll work with them on where to site those water tanks. Access roads, we will meet the requirements of the International Fire Code and make sure that it has the applicable turning radius, as well as project gates will be equipped with a Knox box rapid entry system. And then signage, that's something that was noted within the reports. And so project staff will work with the Santa Fe County Fire Department to develop, locate, and provide comprehensive site signage and a marking plan compliant with NFPA 855-4.74 and the Santa Fe County Fire requirements. And then, I think just for this, like, once the battery is operational, these are some of the elements that will be in place. And so making sure that, the battery is constantly being monitored, as well as, we're working with the Santa Fe County Fire Department to update our emergency response plan once we do select the final supplier that would be in the equipment for the BES site, as well as updating the decommissioning plan. And then, Jeff mentioned the BCS. And so that's really, how you're working with your predictive monitoring, the automated alerts and shutdown. And, that's all described and will continue to be updated in our HMA. And here's just an overview of installations around the country. And so not all of the installations in the top left graph are lithium iron phosphate, but it's a growing and expanding battery technology that a lot of systems are employing. One of close as Albuquerque, there's the Trisco Energy Storage Plant has lithium iron phosphate batteries on site. And then, we also wanted to show, we went to that facility in Colorado in the top right, and, it was really good to see how these batteries are set up. And can't really see it, but on the bottom, these would be placed on concrete pads, and so that image shows that. And so just, to finalize this, documentation provided in our submission is the following. And so we provided all of the information and continuing to update our data rooms on the information that NV5 and the County Fire Department are requesting. And we will continue as we move through this process and up to the building permit, following the, based on the recommendations we have reviewed, to update our files based on what is needed to comply with the building permit recommendations. And just, I think, this kind of outlines it. This is an application for land use, but the BES design and the safety materials are represented to the level of detail and compliance the project will adhere to. We submitted based on the codes and regulations at the time, and the final equipment selection and design will occur later, with all materials being revised prior to application for the building permit. And then, final equipment selection will design and comply with all county, state, and national codes and regulations at that time, and want to just continue building our relationship and communication with the county fire department. And so lastly, just want to run through the conditional use approval criteria, reiterate the deliverables that we have provided to the county within our application. And so here are the 7 approval criteria that are listed within the SLDC 4.9.6.5. And so for criteria 1, we don't believe that this project will not be detrimental to health, safety, and general welfare of the area for the reasons including the following: meeting the requirements of all of the applicable fire codes and county requirements, perimeter fencing, the gallons of water that are on site, as well as all applicable OSHA and federal, state occupational health and safety standards. And then for the general welfare, the project site is on private open rangeland that's historically been used for ranching activities, which could resume after decommissioning. And this project results in very low offsite impacts during operation. For criteria 2, we talked about the access permit, and so the project is located on New Mexico Highway 41, and so that has an existing, based on some of the reports we've filed, has an existing average daytime of 1,492. So it's a rural corridor with excess capacity. The majority of construction traffic will take place during, majority of traffic will take place during construction, when we will have the employees on site during those days. We've reached out to MDOT, and they've concern for construction, for temporary construction traffic impact analysis is not required. And we have provided haul route plans. For the criteria number 3, Glow Mountain Energy will not create a potential hazard for fire, panic, or other danger for reasons including the following. We'll be in full compliance with county, state, national fire and hazard code regulations and requirements. We incorporate, the recommendations and, vegetation-free clear buffer, as well as defensible space around the yard. We'll incorporate the active fire protection measures that are controlled within the BMS system, as well as the 60,000 gallons of on-site water tanks. And we'll continue to coordinate with the Santa Fe County Fire Department. And then for criteria number 4, tend to overcrowd land and cause under concentration of population. So we believe that will not tend to overcrowd land and cause undue concentration of population for reasons including the following. This is a low-density project and will not drive up measurable population increase. We have approximately 8 permanent on-site employees during operational phase, and the workforce of up to 250 employees per day at peak construction is temporary. No commercial or residential development is proposed, and the project area will transition from ranch use to energy generation. Our EIR concludes that there's no long-term changes to population are anticipated as a result of the project. For criteria number 5, will not interfere with adequate provisions for schools, parks, water, sewage, transportation, or other public requirements, conveniences, or improvements. For water, we have a ready, willing, and able letter executed with the Intramesa Water Association for non-potable bulk water supply. This will mainly occur during the construction phase. Operational water is minimal. We have talked, we are interested in utilizing one of the wells on site for operation and maintenance, building, as well as, just general maintenance being pretty minimal with the one 5,000 gallon potable tank. Schools and parks, this project will generate property tax contributions for the schools, the county. Mitigation, we have designated haul routes, traffic staging, road maintenance protocols, and obtaining all the requirements through MDOT. There will be no municipal, county, or sewage service for the project, and we will continue to work with the county for the pre-incident plan. And then for the project, not interfering with adequate light and air for reasons including the following. Short-term dust and exhaust emissions will be, during construction will be reduced through dust suppression, vehicle speed limits, tire wash stations, and limited idling. Will comply with all of the NMED air quality requirements, and once operational, minimal emissions. For light, all project lighting will be fully shielded and downcast. We'll comply with the dark sky guidelines in this location, and construction lighting will be minimum necessary for safety and will not be left on when not in use. And our solar panels will use anti-reflective, anti-glare PV module coatings. So the ER concluded this project will have less than significant impacts to air resources with mitigation and no meaningful interference with light or air for adjacent properties. And then lastly, the project will not be inconsistent with the purposes of the property's zoning classification or any other way inconsistent with the spirit and intent of the SLDC or SGMT for reasons including the following. These projects are zoned agricultural and ranching and rural. Both zoning classifications explicitly list commercial solar energy development or gas or electric power generation.
If there's somebody online who's not muted, please make sure that you're muted.
Okay. Are you any closer to being done?
Excuse me. If there's someone online, we can hear you. Please make sure your microphone is muted so we can.
Yeah, this is the
continue.
last slide. So. And the project is consistent with New Mexico's renewable portfolio standard, 50% renewable energy by 2030 and 100% carbon-free by 2045. They're preparing compliance with the SLDC, and RER concludes that the project is fully consistent with the agricultural / ranching zoning as rural zoning districts. Thank you.
Thank you. So I know that there are voluminous materials that are publicly available for this. They're on the board docs website for anybody who wants to access them. But just to go through a couple of, and kind of distill a couple of the issues that you were discussing, we have a lot of letters in support. We have some letters in opposition. I think we'll get to that later today. In terms of the opposition, some of the major categories include the sound, the environment, and the environmental impact. and potential fire risk. You've addressed all of those issues in your presentation, but I wanted to kind of go through a couple of things about each of those categories. With respect to the environmental impact report, was that prepared by your company, or was that prepared by an independent company that you hired for that purpose?
No, we hired ERP for that. Jennifer Loeffler is here. I was wondering, for these questions, do we want to get our subject matter experts sworn in?
You, as the applicant, will have an opportunity to kind of close today's presentation or today's hearing and address any of the issues that come up in the public commentary. I think that probably would be the appropriate time for individual subject matter experts to present. But just to go through a couple of these issues, so the independent contractor, the Energy Renewal Partners, did the environmental impact report, and then that was subject to review by another company that was hired by the county, correct?
Correct.
And then they identified some issues, and you're working with them in their report, and that's part of these conditions of approval, is that you're going to address the issues that were raised by Glorietta, which is the environmental reviewer hired by the county, correct?
Correct, yeah, we are working through those recommendations and the comments that have been made.
Okay. Additionally, with respect to the potential fire risk, I think you discussed the battery management system, you discussed the monitoring, you discussed the various codes with which you're in compliance, or with which you plan to be in compliance. That includes the International Fire Code and National Fire Code. I think that's the NFPA that you were talking about. And then you also mentioned that incidents of these types of batteries, or this family of batteries, have decreased in recent years, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I know that you mentioned remote monitoring for the battery management system. Are there going to be employees on site all of the time, or are there employees who can address those issues remotely? And then I think there were some automated systems that are in place to address the battery operation. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a mixture of both. So we'll have employees on site from 8 a.m. To 12 a.m. So that's illustrated in our application materials. For the remote monitoring, it's through a BCS system, so the battery control system within the battery. And so that will actively be in the operation and maintenance building, but also be going to a third party, monitoring software. And so we'll be working with a third party company to monitor the batteries and make sure that if there is any incidences where we could see that the battery is going into thermal runaway, or just any issues with the battery at all, that will be communicated, and the emergency departments will be notified.
Okay. And then in terms of and maybe the fire marshal is the person to speak to this, but in terms of the ability of emergency responders to address a particular kind of issue arising with, batteries as opposed to, like a wildfire, have you been working with them to ensure readiness on their part to address any issues that might arise at this site?
Yeah, so that's something we definitely need, as we work to the building permit, need to work with the county fire department even more. We prepared an emergency response plan that outlined, what should happen if there was an emergency event. In addition, we are committed to, preparing and giving trainings to the fire department for how to, combat, and just how batteries work in general, and how to address if there is an incident that rises up, that the county fire department is prepared to take on that event.
Okay, and then lastly, with respect to noise, I think it was touched on in your presentation, but have you done surveys and analysis to make sure that the noise isn't going to interfere with the residents that are located close to the project?
Yeah, so we've done 2 studies now. We started, and our original submission was the predictive noise study. And so that was, that looked at the county noise requirements for that area. And based on those requirements and where our BES is sited, it has to be focused on the parcel lines. And so with noise, we had like noise reducing receptors that the battery facility has, offers. We were able to meet the requirements of being under, well under the requirements of the county. Furthermore, we've actually, as identified in the EIR analysis by Glorietta, they, advised that we get an ambient noise study. We have gotten a noise study, and due to the highway being situated so closely to where the battery, it's, that highway averages around 55 decibels, even throughout the night. So there's still regular traffic that's going on that highway throughout the night. We will be updating our EIR and based on the comments with the results of that ambient noise study.
Okay, understood. And then just to clarify and to make it, on the record, Linea and I guess Globe Mallow and the other LLC that owns Project One, and I know that they're all owned ultimately by the investor, but you're willing to comply with the conditions of approval specified in the staff report, which incorporate the comments provided by Glorieta, the comments provided by, I think it's NV5, and the State Historical Preservation Office, and the Fire Marshal, correct?
Brad Wilson, a quick comment in response to that question. With apologies to the planning staff, we haven't shared this with them yet. There are 2 conditions outlined in the staff report that we would like to propose slight adjustments to before then answering yes to your question. We understand if there's some time needed to deliberate on this. I apologize. I'll be right back. All right. The first condition of approval listed near the end of the staff report that we'd like to mention briefly is condition number 2. The additional drilling of wells for this use on this parcel is prohibited. We would like to ask the county's consideration of adding a slight additional statement to the end of that, where instead of a period after prohibited, we write comma and then say, unless approved by the state engineer. The reason for this is that, as I think correctly noted a number of times during the commentary already today, our base plan is to convert for operational water requirements an existing, quite old well on site that is currently being used to supply water for cattle. That is our base case and was what we'd like to do. However, today we have not done a comprehensive engineering analysis of that well to determine with total certainty that that conversion can be done. If it can, that is what we will do and what we will proceed with. But we would like to suggest this adjustment to still allow the drilling of a new well if the existing well cannot be converted from an engineering perspective.
Okay, and that would require, as you're saying, additional approval from the state engineer's office?
Absolutely. New wells are governed by the state engineer's office, and there's a robust kind of public review and approval process there.
Understood. And I guess the proposal would be to either do the conversion or to drill a new well, not to do both, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then what's the second condition?
The second condition is condition number 4. Prior to the recordation of the CUP site development plan, all access roads shall be permitted through Santa Fe County, built out and inspected, or financial guarantees must be in place in lieu of. We'd like to suggest adding one word, which is the word public, in front of access roads. The reason for this is a number of our access roads on the project are just private gravel driveways and typically would not comply with the county design standards for public roadways. So to the extent that there are any public access roads as part of the project's design, this condition is something that we would be happy to comply with. We're asking that non-public access roads are not subject to this condition.
I understand, and I can verify with staff, but my understanding is that's already kind of the spirit of the condition. But I appreciate the focus on making sure that it's clear about what the meaning of those are. But I'll talk to the to staff about that as well. But I appreciate those 2 clarifications.
Okay, and those are our only 2 comments on the conditions.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, that's all the questions I have for the applicant. And again, you are entitled to have the last word today. And so to the extent new issues are raised or questions are asked in the public commentary, I may direct some of those to you at the end of today's hearing. Thank you. All right. So I would like to start public commentary with anyone who is present here in person and who is either a neighbor within 1,000 feet or a representative of a community organization or a residential organization. And then we'll move on to members of the public, and then we'll move on to people in the video conference. So if anybody is here to speak on behalf of a residential organization or community organization, or is a neighbor within 1,000 feet who received notice of the neighborhood meeting, please identify yourself now and come up to the microphone. All right, seeing no one in person who meets those. Oh, I see one. Come on up.
Hi, my name is June Morris. I'm from Stanley, New Mexico.
First, yeah. I'm just going to ask you to get
I
sworn
should have known. My name is June Morris. I'm from Stanley, New Mexico. I don't know if I qualify for this, but there is a small group.
Okay, just quickly, we're going to ask, everyone has to just be sworn in first before offering a statement, so we're going to ask you to do that first.
To do what?
To be sworn in.
Oh. Yes. June Morris, 06 Rex Road, Stanley, New Mexico, 87056. Okay.
Okay.
I've been a member of a small group. We're calling ourselves Out of Water. Anyway, we've been meeting initially to combat the Zia wind farm because they've been taking exorbitant amount of water from the different well sites throughout Stanley and Edgewood. I did not know about this particular meeting because I don't live within the 1,000 feet. However, our biggest concern is water. Thank you for addressing some of the fire suppression concerns. I'm a member of this Stanley Volunteer Fire Department and have been for 25 years. So that was good to hear. Our concern is how can Entrenosa, a private company, dictate the use of our private water? We've had many residential wells go dry in the past few years, and how much gallons of water is going to be used in the construction process on a daily basis. You know, for, like you said, dust abatement, filling the tanks, all of that. Our water levels are going down, and we know at least 10 people who have had to redig their wells, and we're concerned this is going to have a major impact on us. So if that can be addressed. And then the other concern for me personally was how all this fencing might affect animal migration. We have lots of herds of pronghorn in the area that migrate through, and they're going to be eliminated from that area. And what else? I think you addressed the disposal of damaged or decayed batteries and panels, and we know that they are not good for the landfills, so that was another concern. But I think those were the three. Oh, and one more, how the rainfall, which we have so little of, and that's what our Estancia Valley depends on for water, how is that going to be impacted by this construction? Will it affect the flow and the seepage of water into our groundwater systems? So I think that covers it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I will remind everybody that, and I think it's up on the screen, but we're imposing a 3-minute limit. Hopefully it won't be a problem. But please, you know, strive to comply, and I appreciate your compliance with the 3-minute limitation, even though I didn't remind you of it. Okay, so now I'd like to invite anyone else who's here in person to speak for or against the proposed CUPs. And you can do a line, but please, when you come up to the microphone, the first thing to do is to be sworn in, give your name and address, and then you can make your statement. Again, keep it to 3 minutes, please.
I do. Sure. My name is Lee, L-E-E. Last name is Zlotov. Z as in zebra, L as in Lawrence, O as in Oscar, T as in Thomas, O as in Oscar, double F as in French fry. I live at 53 Camarada Road, 87508. Hearing Officer Hartstein. I am president of the Clean Energy Coalition for Santa Fe County, better known as CEC, which was formed as an all-volunteer residents organization in 2023 in response to the proposed AES, now AES BlackRock, best facility in our area. Our mission was and remains to educate the public about significant renewable energy projects in the county. Given our over 2,000 members, the hundreds of residents who attended those hearings, and the extensive press coverage attendant to that, I believe we have and continue to fulfill that mission, if not to also contest the BCC's approval of that project in district court. We are and have been committed supporters of renewable energy. But through our own extensive research and exhaustive consultation with experts on both the AES BlackRock and Linnea projects for several years now, I believe we are as knowledgeable and well-informed about both the benefits and risks of such installation as any party in this process could reasonably claim to be. And we are not alone in that. In her dissenting opinion regarding the AES decision, Commissioner Lisa Kakari Stone stated in part, and I quote, "We should be a leader in renewable energy, yet our leadership demands diligence, transparency, and accountability. This dissent is a call for stronger siting standards, updated county codes, enforceable decommissioning requirements, and adequate planning of solar projects," end quote. That is the spirit in which we come here today. Because of our current dispute with the county over a similar project, it would be inappropriate for us to either support or oppose the Linnea project. But that does not absolve any of us, yourself included, from our responsibilities to put the safety and welfare of our residents first, rather than as an unfortunate byproduct of the relentless drive for corporate profit and the seemingly limitless appetite for AI data centers. The following speakers from CEC will now offer our specific suggestions and recommendations to safeguard the communities around this project. We implore you to consider these and thank you for your consideration, because just like you, all we want is what is truly best for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Victoria Clark, 3 Gualdo Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87508. Thank you. Hearing Officer Hartstein, thank you for the time to speak. Victoria Clark. I'm a registered nurse, retired from Christus St. Vincent after 40 years, and was a proud member of our union, Local 1199. I am on the steering committee of Clean Energy Coalition for Santa Fe County. While solar collection through panels is a well-established practice, batteries and energy storage are relatively new technologies with many variations and combinations that can have significant impact on safety. I want to quote from a letter dated January 2nd of this year from the president of the Los Angeles County Firefighters Union, Local 1014, to Anthony Marone, president of the LA County Fire Department. Dear Chief Marone, Local 1014 hereby demands that the LA County Fire District cease and desist from any consideration, review, approval, conditional approval, or facilitation of an energy storage system proposed to be located adjacent to an LA County Fire Station 43. BESS facilities are recognized as high-hazard industrial installations that present uniquely severe risks, including but not limited to thermal runaway and cascading battery failure, deflagration and explosive overpressure events, release of highly toxic gases including hydrogen fluoride, delayed ignition and reignition without warning. Lithium-ion battery incidents have already caused serious firefighter injuries and long-term health consequences. Local 1014's opposition is not limited to fire stations. BESS facilities pose an existential threat to public health and safety when located near residential homes, schools, or neighborhoods. Civilians, including children, seniors, and medically vulnerable populations, have no ability to mitigate or respond to energy storage failures. Local 1014 does not oppose energy storage technology in principle. However, such facilities must be sited only in remote, non-residential areas of LA County where failure does not endanger the public or emergency responders. Respectfully, David Gillott. I doubt that anyone would label a firefighter a NIMBY. So when the third largest local chapter of a firefighters union, a national firefighters union, points to the dangers of BESS facilities, we should all take notice and ensure we are doing everything possible to make them as safe as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, I do. My name is Randy Coleman. I live at 22 Fonda Road in 87508. That's in El Dorado. Hearing Commissioner Hartstein. I'm Randy Coleman. I'm Vice President of CEC, and I'm an electrical engineer. In complex system engineering, such as an electrical energy generation facility like this, Linnea project, or the AES Blackrock project that preceded it, the design details are important to understand. Throughout the CUP approval process, understanding the design decisions that went into the system can help prevent serious consequences throughout its operating life cycle. For example, the most important design parameter for a battery storage system is the selection of the battery type. Linnea proposes using LFP batteries, which are rapidly becoming the preferred choice for this application. In contrast, AES Blackrock is using NCA batteries to achieve higher performance. For lithium-ion batteries, the greater the performance, the less safe they are. The difference between LFP and NCA is like the difference between diesel fuel and high-performance gasoline. Diesel is safer than gasoline in terms of volatility because it's less flammable and has a higher flash point. LFP batteries are safer than NCA batteries because it is less flammable and has a higher flash point. LFP batteries are safer than NCA batteries because they are, LFP is considered a safer choice for the application due to its inherent chemical stability. The county just cannot perform the level of oversight required for a utility scale energy generation facility like this. The county has contracted for expert review from NV2 and Gloria Geospatial, as well as the review of the fire department. We will hear other members of CEC offer more expert opinions and recommendations backing up the concerns of the county's expert. What I'm asking you, Hearing Officer Hartstein, is to make sure that the conditions of the CUP reflect these conditions that are in the reports explicitly, and to identify when those conditions should be met, whether that be prior to recordation, prior to the issuance of permits, or before it becomes operating. I will stop there because I'm almost out of time. I want to make one clarification. The statement was made that the ESRI failure rate value will converge to zero. It will not, and it never will. It can't. That's not possible. But I do want to commend, and I apologize for going over, we've been working with Andrew and Linnea, and we found them very easy to work with. We've found them to be upfront and not to obfuscate the issues around the battery storage systems.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do. Jim Wheeler, 95 Incantado Loop, 87508. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. A BESS enclosure describes the container that houses the battery modules and associated controls and fire suppression systems. The layout and configuration of the enclosures determines how a potential fire might spread or be contained. The linear BESS enclosures are configured in blocks of 4, which are separated by 11.5 feet. Of course, this is conditioned upon the Hithium system that they showed in their initial drawings, which has a proprietary installation system that required 11.5-foot separation. Today's testimony says that enclosure system is to be determined. We would ask that regardless of the equipment selection, that a minimum of 10 feet between BESS containers be maintained. In the event of a fire, the initial response will come from the Stanley Volunteer Fire Department located 3.7 miles or 4 minutes away, and the Santa Fe County Edgewood Regional Fire Station located 21 miles or 37 minutes away. In response to the fire marshal, Linnea has converted or agreed to change its 30,000 gallons on-site tank to 60,000 gallons. A CEC expert witness stated that in the event of a BESS thermal runaway fire, the current standard practice is to put 2 streams of water with 12,000 gallons per hour on the adjacent enclosures for 24 to 36 hours. A 60,000 gallon supply would last 5 hours under that scenario. The county commissioners are requiring AES to include a 60,000 gallon tank. We believe that Linnea should meet that minimum requirement as they've agreed to do, but we'd also like them to clarify how additional water could be delivered in the event of a fire lasting more than 5 hours. The Linnea Emergency Response Plan advises the fire department to maintain a personnel standoff position of 300 feet. The initial site plans provided shows that the water tank is located just 65 feet from the nearest BESS enclosure, and the initial staging area for the fire department is located between 85 and 275 feet away. We ask that Linnea refine the site design to comply with their own emergency response plan and provide the 300-foot standoff. We also ask that Linnea, they've mentioned BESS silencers in their enclosure system, but they provided no specifications about what those BESS silencers do or how they work. We ask that they provide that information. And finally, to reiterate what Randy said, we respectfully ask that the hearing officer itemize all of the conditions included in the supplemental reports and align them with the approval milestones articulated by Mr. Cisneros. This will provide clarity and ensure conditions don't fall through the cracks along the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, I do. Nancy Wheeler, 95 Encantado Loop, 87508. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I am a member of the CEC Steering Committee. Linnea proposes to use 67 acre-feet of water during the 18-month construction period, primarily for the control of dust, but also for concrete foundations. In contrast, AES states that it will use 100 to 150 acre-feet of water over a 12-month construction period. It is unclear why AES is using 2 to 3 times as much water on a site that is half as large, with a schedule that is 6 months shorter. We ask Linnea to confirm its calculations. During the operational phase, Linnea will use 10.5 acre-feet of water to clean solar panels. Linnea will convert an existing well to supply operational water and fill the 5,000-gallon potable water tank and proposed 30,000-gallon fire tank. We ask that Linnea confirm the well's capacity to serve a potential 60,000-gallon tank and its capacity to refill the tank during a potential fire event. Linnea completed a stormwater study showing 7 drainage areas, 2 swales, and multiple stormwater collection basins. Swales designated 7A and 7B are on either side of the BESS yard and lead to Basin 7, which is designed to hold over 200,000 gallons. The swales are lined with material designed to prevent erosion. There is no discussion by Linnea regarding the collection of water used during potential firefighting on the best yard. A CEC expert witness discussed how water used to cool down enclosures that are adjacent to a burning enclosure will interact with the smoke plume and capture toxic chemicals in the runoff. We believe the swales and retention basin should be lined as necessary to contain hazardous runoff from potential firefighting. Thank you.
I do. My name is Dana Matlin. I live at 53 Camerata Road, 87508. That's in El Dorado. I'm going to share with you 3 more concerns with condition recommendations. Number 1, after looking at Globe Mallow 1 and 2, costs to build, projected tax revenue, bonds, decommissioning, etc., we found Linnea's payments will be 4.6% of the project cost, while that of AES is 3.5%. That's 30% higher for Linnea. Also, the economic studies provided by Linnea only discuss benefits and payments and do not include associated costs of increased fire department staffing, equipment, or other related county expenses. So for these and other reasons, we are requesting that an independent cost-benefit impact study be conducted. We believe this should be the case for all large-scale renewable projects. Number 2, where is the power going and how will it benefit citizens? Beyond a proposed interconnection agreement with PNM, there is no discussion of this. We would like Linnea to explain and guarantee that a major portion of the power would not go to a dedicated user, such as a data center, without the county's approval. And number 3, we believe a community reserve fund should be provided in case of fire, toxic contamination, related medical expenses, agricultural and business losses, and cleanup beyond the parameter of the project. Also, residents within a 5-mile radius should be provided a good neighbor agreement to cover unexpected costs such as insurance increases, lower property values, among other things. So in summary, 1, independent cost-benefit impact study. Number 2, major users to be approved by the county. And 3, reserve fund and good neighbor agreements. Thank you very much, Officer Hartstein, for your time and letting us speak.
Thank you.
I do. My name is Carolina Carrillo, and my address is 225 Gold Avenue Southwest in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Good afternoon. My name is Carolina, and I'm a community organizer with the Semilla Project. But before anything else, I'm a mother, like many parents. The work I do is guided by one simple question. What kind of future are we creating for our kids? Through my work with Semilla, I work with many BIPOC youth and families who care deeply about their communities. Every day, I see how job training leadership programs can carry in for our environment, can open doors for families and give young people hope for their future. Projects like Globe Mallow are part of the future. This project will bring jobs to our communities, help to support local schools and services through the tax revenue, and helps keep energy prices steady for families. Just as an important Clean energy helps protect the air, land, and water for our children depend on. Important projects like Glove Mellow show that our communities can create jobs and grow our economy while still protecting the land around us. At the Semilla Project, we believe strong communities, good jobs, and healthy environment should go together. Thank you so much, and I ask for your support.
Thank you.
I do. Emma Yepa, 10224 Green River Place, 87114. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear from me today. My name is Emma Yepa. I'm here representing the Semilla Project. I'm also a native person from the Pueblo of Jemez, and my relationship with the land is deeply personal. I was raised with the understanding that we have a responsibility to care for Mother Earth so future generations can live and thrive here. At Semilla Project, we believe in building a future where communities, especially youth and communities of color, have access to healthy environment and economic opportunity. Clean energy projects like Globe Mellow help move us in that direction. Investments in solar and energy storage not only protect our air, land, and water, they also create good paying jobs and generate revenue that support schools, infrastructure, and essential community services. Projects like this show that we don't have to choose between economic development and protecting Mother Earth because we can do both. Supporting responsible clean energy development is one way we can invest in a more sustainable and equitable future. I respectfully urge you to support this project, and thank you so much for your time and your consideration.
Thank you.
I do. Charles Goodmacher, 3540 North Pole Loop, Northeast, Rio Rancho 87144. Thank you, and thank you, Hearing Officer Hartstein, for this opportunity. I'm here as a fellow New Mexican, and yes, I don't live in Santa Fe County, but my home is actually closer to this site than we are standing here. So I'm also here as a policy advisor for a group called Healthy Climate New Mexico. Solar energy is often celebrated for its positive impact on the environment, but its benefits extend far beyond reducing carbon emissions and mitigating climate change, which, by the way, health professionals do recognize as the single greatest threat to public health. Solar energy provides significant health benefits by replacing fossil fuels, drastically reducing harmful air pollutants like sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter. Solar energy avoids the harmful air and water pollution associated with fossil fuel extraction, transport, and combustion. This shift improves air quality compared to other means, reducing cardiovascular and respiratory illnesses such as asthma, and prevents premature deaths. Studies of the very extensive solar industry in this nation of Chile have proven that hospitalizations have been reduced by double digits in communities where solar has replaced other forms. Finally, about this specific project, Healthy Climate New Mexico is satisfied with the health and safety measures presented to this body in the initial presentation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Yes. Shelley Manlev, 2663 Via Caballero del Norte, Santa Fe. Thank you. Thank you so much to our hearing officer, Hartstein. My name is Shelley Manlev. I am the former executive director of Healthy Climate New Mexico, also a resident of the city of Santa Fe and the county of Santa Fe. Been here for 32 years. I know many people have been here longer. I stand here representing Healthy Climate New Mexico. We are a organization, a relatively young organization, because it's only recently that health professionals, healthcare professionals, public health professionals, behavioral health professionals like social workers, psychiatrists, and other people who devoted their lives to public health have recognized and been standing up for climate solutions that protect health and promote equity. Fossil fuels, the burning of fossil fuels, and I haven't heard anybody comment the risks associated with being reliant on fossil fuel burning, issues of affordability as well as climate pollution are deeply harming our health. In this time, we need solutions. We do encourage you to take and are grateful that we have processes that take a careful look at risks, but every way of producing energy has some risks. And we know that solar plus battery storage with all the advances is the cheapest and available here in New Mexico to add jobs and benefits to our community and the cleanest and healthiest approaches we have to producing energy. We're excited about what this can mean for our community and for our state because our health depends on this. So we are grateful to Linnea for the investment, the care that they are taking. We want, obviously, to limit whatever risks there are, and we do need to move forward so that we can have healthy, clean sources of energy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I do. Ken Hughes, 2300 West Alameda Street, 87507. Good afternoon. Again, I'm Ken Hughes. I spent 13 years with the state of New Mexico as a clean energy specialist. Really got to know all the financing technology and other policies that lead us towards a clean energy future. Now I'm here representing the Coalition Sustainable Communities New Mexico, which advocates for policies that align local growth with long-term sustainability. When we examine the Globe Mallow project through the lens of the county's Sustainable Development Code, we see an emphasis on protecting our natural resources. The code prioritizes renewable energy development that mitigates adverse climate impacts while preserving the health and safety of residents. By using the code, we required wildlife-friendly fencing and native vegetation management. This project serves as a factual example of how utility-scale solar can be integrated responsibly. Our coalition supports the use of these rigorous science-based standards to ensure that energy transition and land stewardship go hand in hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do. Glenn Schiffbauer, 3900 Paseo del Sol, Santa Fe, New Mexico, 87507. Thank you, Hearing Officer Hartstein, for your time and this opportunity today. My name is Glenn Schiffbauer. I'm the Executive Director for New Mexico Sustainable Business and the Santa Fe Green Chamber of Commerce. I represent about 200 businesses here in the state. For those of us who spend all of our time advocating for renewable energy, this past New Mexico legislative session has been a wake-up call. We saw that the momentum toward clean energy can be slowed not only by federal policy, but also by strong lobbying from the fossil fuel industry here at home. That makes moments like this even more important. Local communities have the opportunity to stand up and reaffirm their and our commitment to clean, renewable energy. That's one reason I'm here today to support the proposed Globe Mallow solar project in our county. Projects like Globe Mallow represent the next generation of energy infrastructure. Utility-scale solar combined with battery storage allows us to capture clean electricity during the day and store it for use when the sun is not shining. This means reliable, round-the-clock power without burning fossil fuels. The economic benefits are also significant. Construction of the project will require skilled workers, electricians, engineers, technicians, and installers, jobs that are in high demand and pay strong wages. After construction, long-term operations and maintenance will remain in the community, supporting local families and strengthening our workforce. Beyond jobs, projects like Globe Mallow help move New Mexico toward a more resilient and sustainable future. Expanding clean energy reduces emissions, stabilizes energy costs. We're witnessing how it doesn't take much to destabilize them these days, and ensures that our state continues to lead in the transition to modern energy systems. Approving the Globe Mallow Solar Project will bring investment, tax revenue, and high-quality jobs to our region while delivering clean power to communities across New Mexico. It will also prove that power needs can be met renewably and send the message to projects like Project Jupiter, solar plus storage works. Simply put, we don't have time to do anything less than everything we can. I urge you to recommend this to move forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Cynthia Golden Arnold, 111 Prairie Wood Lane, Stanley, New Mexico. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate everybody's time and giving us the opportunity to present our concerns and the positives and negatives. As a Stanley resident, my concern is water. We have people whose wells are going dry, and there's no water systems out where we're at. Melody Ranch in Moriarty is a perfect example of, and they were in a residential area that they had no water. So by continuing to pull from the Estancia Basin, we're continuing to deplete the water. And if people don't have water, doesn't matter what energy we have, we don't survive, nor do our livestock. So I would like to see an alternative plan that addresses the water concerns that we have. And Intranosa has in the past sold their water to other alternative energy projects. That water depleted the basin even more for a commercial project. Didn't help our residents, didn't help our livestock, and as I understand it, that electricity is going out of state, so it didn't even help us that way. So please, consider our need for water, consider helping our residents that don't have $70,000 to drill a new well, nor do we have a system out there, a water system. Thank you for your consideration and your time.
Thank you. I think that's everybody that we have here in person in the hearing chamber. We also have a number of people joining us via video conference, and at this time I would like to open the floor to people joining by video conference to make statements. I'm going to allow the staff to identify people, so please raise your hand either virtually or your physical hand and turn your video on, and they will call individuals one by one so that we can do this in an orderly fashion. And a 3-minute limitation is also going to apply to people on video conference, so please keep that in mind as well.
Hearing Officer Hartstein, the first person we have is Rochelle.
All right. And,
Chavez?
And the swearing-in requirement also applies to people joining via video, so please, if you can, turn your video on. It's not a requirement, but be sworn in and then present your statement.
Hello, thank you. Rochelle Chavez, 7707 Morrow Ave, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87110.
Ms. Chavez,
yes.
Do you swear or affirm that your testimony will be the truth?
I do, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hello, again, Rochelle Chavez. I'm with NAVA. I'm an Indigenous Energy Organizer. And as an Indigenous Native New Mexican, I strongly support the development of the Globe Mallow project. Our communities have lived on this land for generations, and we understand better than anyone how deeply our future is tied to the health of our environment. And the transition towards renewable energy isn't just policy choice, it's a responsibility that we carry for our next generation. New Mexico has always been a place of sunlight, resilience, and stewardship, and investing in solar energy honors those traditions. And projects like Globe Mallow reduce our dependence on fossil fuels, which we really, really need to do, protects our air and water, and it helps us confront the climate crisis with solutions that are rooted in sustainability rather than extraction. Renewable energy development also brings economic opportunities to rural areas, supports long-term energy independence, and aligns with the values that many of us were raised with, caring for our land, thinking 7 generations ahead, and ensuring that our children will inherit a world that is livable and thriving. So for these reasons, I urge you to move forward with the Globe Mallow project. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the video conference who'd like to make a statement?
Hearing Officer Hartstein, I do not see anyone else wishing to speak on behalf of this case.
Okay. And I am in receipt of and have reviewed and will review as I put together the recommendation, the various written statements that have been submitted in this case. And I think there may be some people online who correspond to some of those written statements, but those will be taken into account as well. All right, so I don't believe there's anyone else who would like to make a statement, either in person or on video conference. With that in mind, I'm going to ask the applicant, the representatives of the applicant, to come back up to the podium. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to respond to anything that was raised in the public commentary. I have a few notes on some things that that were raised, and it's up to you whether or not you want to respond to them. But I think one of the issues, the main issues, was the water and kind of the plan for the water. I know that some of the materials address alternative sources other than Entranosa. Those materials, again, are publicly available on the board docs website for the county. But so the water is one issue. I think fencing and the migration of the pronghorn was another issue that was raised. Rainfall and hydrology, I know the representatives of the applicants have indicated that they had some hydrological studies done as well, so maybe speak a little bit to that. And then I think the spacing of the battery containers was one of the issues that was brought up, and the selection of the particular devices to be used. Again, we don't need to get necessarily into kind of intensive detail on each of these issues, but if you have the opportunity now, to the extent you desire to address those issues, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you. Once again, Brad Wilson with Linnea Energy. And I think we will take the opportunity to respond to the questions you asked, but would like to reserve the opportunity to file a more robust written response. Really great to see the community engagement here in Santa Fe County, and we'd like to make sure to give all the commenters appropriate consideration before responding more directly. The three items that you asked about more broadly, we had some great comments about water supply, and certainly in an area like this in New Mexico, water availability is a rightful concern. And the comment today would be, we are not seeking to create new or additional water withdrawal rights from the existing basin. The on-site well for operational purposes that we describe, as well as the agreement with Entranosa or someone like them, that utilizes existing water rights that already are in place today and can be utilized at any time. Our utilization of either of these water supply methods will not increase the amount of withdrawal from the basin that is already approved by the state engineer. Leaping ahead, just because it's also a water-based topic, commentary received regarding rainfall. I think we can respond to this a little bit more specifically, but the project will have to comply with a robust stormwater prevention plan that is fully vetted and compliant with all state and local codes. We're not, what we've filed as an example based upon the kind of permit design you see, but it is by no means the final certified design of the SWIP. As part of the process here in Santa Fe County to pursue approval of a building permit so construction can actually begin, that that final stormwater prevention plan and erosion control plan will need to be finalized, reviewed by the county, and signed off on before building permit is issued. And we'll work closely with that department to make sure that the codes and requirements are met. Similar commentary, I think there were a number of really well-informed comments in regards to best fire and safety. At a very high level, would like to respond to each of these in writing in more detail. I would propose that today, here at a use hearing, some of the requested conditions are preliminary. The BESS system that we put forth today was based upon an example system that was commercially available at the time of our application, and based upon the national fire codes that were in place back in April. Already, one of those codes has been updated to a new version. We would not want to put highly specific design criteria into the use permit conditions today that would rob the fire department of the opportunity to adopt even more modern codes in a couple years when this project is actually ready to begin construction. We would propose instead the system that's already in place. The county fire department has to sign off on the system's design and safety features before a building permit can be issued, and we commit and look forward to working closely with the county fire department to make sure their requirements are met. I think we'd also file some, additional written commentary within the next, couple or few days, and for entry into the record. Do you have any other questions, hearing officer?
I do not. Thank you very much for your presentation and for addressing some of the issues that were raised. I will issue a written written recommendation with findings of fact and conclusions of law within 15 business days. So to the extent there are additional written materials, if you could get those in quickly. Let me ask a procedural question to the staff. Can we make that part of the record if there are additional written materials that are responsive to issues that were raised today? Or are we limited to what's already in the record?
Hearing Officer Hartstein. I think the safe approach is to limit your decision-making to matters that were presented and made available at today's hearing. You could make reference to other materials that may come in subsequently, which I believe staff will post for public and all parties' consumption. But the safer approach is to use today's evidence.
I think to the extent additional written materials are submitted, their main purpose is to respond to the issues raised by members of the public. So I think it does make sense for me to limit my decision to the materials that are already in the record, including all of the testimony today. But to the extent you'd like to address those additional issues in writing, you will have an opportunity to do so. And again, this isn't the last stage of the process, as everybody knows. So to the extent that you'd seek to address those additional topics that were raised, there will be an opportunity to do that in the future. But again, thank you. I'll consider this matter submitted, and I will issue my recommendation with findings of fact and conclusions of law within 15 business days. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, and we are off the record. Thank you, everyone, for the robust community participation today. We appreciate your attendance and your input.